Hey guys, welcome back to the Max Spence Business Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, but before I jump into that, if you guys like the content I'm putting out, the people I'm interviewing, please like, subscribe, leave a review. It helps out a ton with the podcast and also with other people's brands that are coming on the show. If you can go over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review, that helps out a ton as well. So without further ado, today's guest is Mike C-Roc. So he's an executive manager at a residential mortgage company. Him and his three best friends have built one of the most profitable divisions within the mortgage company from the ground up. He is also a speaker and podcast host of the What Are You Made Of podcast. Through his success in the mortgage world, Mike is actually on a mission to build people up and help them achieve greatness. It's great having you on the show, Mike.
Thanks, Max. Man, I appreciate it. I usually start every interview with gratitude because I'm just thankful for the opportunity to be here. And for anybody that wants to hear my voice, I'm truly humbled and grateful. So thank you, Max.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show. Like I was talking about previously, before we went live, was actually talking about some of your content. So people that don't know who you are, I'm just going to give some of his content is actually really good. He's had some very, very, exceptional business leaders on his podcast, one of them being Grant Cardone and other leaders. But yeah, I would highly recommend that you go check out his YouTube channel and his podcast. You could probably find some pretty good pieces of content that would help you in your business endeavors. So moving on now, why don't we jump into a little bit of an intro to give people a little bit more deeper sort of thought process about who you are, right? So where did you grow up and what sort of made you go into business?
Well, I grew up in a place on the East Coast, which is really close to Philadelphia, Baltimore, and DC, in the Mid-Atlantic. I currently live in Ocean City, Maryland. But I got into business. My whole family, pretty much, my uncles, my grandfathers, my dad, they were all in their own business. So I think that's part of it. I think that also when I was a young kid, my mom told me I was going to be a leader and an inspiration, and it programmed me to always be thinking to lead. And even before I knew what leadership was. So that probably had a lot to do with it. And the other thing is I just like being in control. I like either winning or failing because of what my actions are and my thoughts are. So
No, I'm the exact same. I would rather you always get a lot of advice from people, and people are like, I have some good friends, and then other like business sort of mentors a bit that I know, and they're always telling me like, oh, you should do this. I know I could be successful going down like a certain route, right? But it's like it wouldn't be my own decision, right? And I would be much more upset even if I won and it became a great success. If I lost, I'd be so upset with myself because it wasn't my own decision. I like to lose by myself, have my own losses, and my wins are my wins. That's something similar that I'm sort of like that with pretty much your answer to that question. So now moving on, I saw that you came from a little bit of a difficult background from one of your videos, and I sort of want to touch on that a bit if you're completely open to talk about that.
Yeah.
Talking about and sort of giving advice to somebody that maybe is coming from a background that's a little bit harder, to come from and sort of build your way up and bootstrap your way up to become successful like how you are.
And by the way, before I get into that, yeah, sure, I don't mind talking about that. Max, how do we get connected? Do you want to share with your audience how we got connected in the first place?
I believe it's from LinkedIn. It was a couple months ago, but it was from LinkedIn.
Yeah, it is. So basically, I just want to share with everybody the power of connecting through DMs in LinkedIn, Instagram. If you're not doing that and reaching out to people and you're in business or sales or whatever the case is, you're missing the boat. Like you're just missing opportunities. So, I reach out, I watch podcasts. I don't watch whole episodes. I watch little pieces, and then I'll shoot the podcast host a little encouragement. And I think lifting people up is really important. And I think that's how we got connected. And then we connect on the show, and I get on shows that way. But more importantly, I'm making people feel better about what they're doing and lifting people up. And I think that's huge. So I wanted to share that. But, I came from a broken home, grew up around a lot of broken people. I don't remember my parents together. I lived with my dad from 8 to 11. And, it was a very abusive situation as far as mentally and psychologically. I was set, a lot of things were said to me and that should have been said to me as a kid, threats and things about my mom and just different things that shouldn't have been done. And when I was 11, I decided to get out of that environment. I knew that wasn't a good environment for me to grow up in, although I thought it was ordinary because I didn't know any different. And throughout the young ages, from age, I guess 0 to 11, there was child support battles, custody battles, step parents getting in the mix and adding their agendas in it, which of course they're going to do, other kids being born. And so at the end of the day, I decided that I wanted to move back with my mom, and I had her file court papers. And when she did, she reminded me that if she does this, I need to stick to my guns. I need to stick to my beliefs, because if somebody, has an agenda and you have your belief, they're going to try to talk you out of it to match their agenda, or they're going to try to justify their position. If you're in life having success, they're going to try to talk you out of what you're doing. And she said, stick to your guns. So I remembered that. And when my dad got the court papers delivered to him, I came home from school one day and he told me to go to my room. Now, my dad was my hero. He had big forearms, rough hands, always carried a wad of $100 bills in his pocket. He had a masonry company. And I always looked up to him for how hard of a worker he was. And, the money was cool too, and he used to flash it. And so when he confirmed the fact that I wanted to move with my mom, he basically reminded me my mom didn't have it that well. And why would I want to move somewhere that didn't have money? And, I just stuck with my guns and said, no, I made the decision. And he said, okay, well, if that's the case, he took that wad of $100 bills out that he carried around and peeled one off, crumpled it up, and threw it at me and said, you're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother one day. And, at 11 years old, to hear that from your hero is not the best thing in the world. But, I'm stubborn, and my mom told me to stick to my guns. And that reminds me of stubborn. The definition of stubborn is perversely unyielding. When you believe in something, you're perversely unyielding towards it. You cannot fail. And so I basically said to myself, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to need your money. You're not going to dictate my future. The other thing I thought, though, because my mom imprinted and programmed to me that I'm a leader, I'm an inspirer, I'm going to lead people. I thought that I could help other people that have been given up on. I thought that I was strong enough at that age to figure out a way to be a role model and show people that if this is the hand I'm dealt, I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to excel from it. And so for 30 some years, I was fueling off of that. About 3 years ago, there was an event that took place that really had me analyzing myself and what was really going on in my life. Why was I continuing to have a graph that was going upwards? If you're looking at a graph and that line, that trend line is going up, that's a good graph. And I was thinking to myself, like, what is causing this? Why am I having this? Even though despite the setbacks, the difficult upbringing, and what I found is that I was taking things that would stop normal people. And I say, I'm ordinary, I am, but I say normal people, I mean people that aren't doing this. And I was taking these things that would stop the average person, and I was converting them into rocket fuel for my future. Like, I was not just going back to resiliency status where I'm going back to original form. I was blasting off. Once I became aware of this, I was able to throw more fuel on it. And my graph, instead of just a gradual incline, which is a good graph, my trend line shoots straight up like a rocket ship. And so, because I was able to be aware of it and I was able to really blow it up. So that's what it's all about for me, man. That's a little backstory. And what my mission is now is to really help people understand proactively that they cannot be stopped if they take anything that would normally stop a person and convert it to rocket fuel.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's a very interesting point. So with that, like, how do you stay very consistent and focused with like producing that rocket fuel? Because everybody has like ebbs and flows. Everybody has days when, and coming from a background that you came from and other people that are probably living in right now, that's a hard background to sort of get out of. And then even then, there's like the family dynamics and all that sort of stuff. So it can be very difficult to try and stay focused on building your own business when you have all this other sort of noise going on around you, and stay consistent, keep your head down and keep pushing through the work. Cause like, if you're having setbacks, because you're going to have setbacks in your business, right? And that can sort of like, everything can sort of really build up. So how did you sort of overcome that and sort of stay focused and stay consistent with moving forward and moving your business forward?
Well, I like to make things easy. So what I did was I got a clear idea of what kind of life I wanted to live, what kind of person I wanted to be, who I wanted around me, where I wanted to live, and what kind of house, what kind of, like, what do I want? And when I was able to do that and get clear on it, then I knew that every decision that I made, thought that I had, word that I spoke, action that I took was going either towards that or away from it. So I broke it down real simple. So when I wake up in the morning and I feel like laying in bed and I don't feel like getting up, I get up, because I know that getting up goes towards my goal. I have things to complain about when I wake up and open my eyes, but instead of complaining, I say thank you. And I'm grateful, and I practice gratitude because I know that that'll eliminate the things to complain about, because that takes me towards my goal. Do I work out? Yes, because I'm going to work out because I take care of my body. That's going towards my goal. So those are the kind of things I look at, because I understand that in order to make, the chaos go away, I need something stable. And that one stable thing is that simple question: towards the goal or away from it. And I have a saying: thrust is a must. I must thrust forward. I must be moving forward at a quick pace, because I know that that's required, because when things come your way to stop you or slow you down, you need that thrust to get through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and that makes sense with that. So like really like and I find that pretty interesting. So you take everything and you look at it like, I don't want to do this today, but is it going to bring me closer to my goal? Yes. Okay, then I'm going to do it. Is it
Right.
going to push me farther away than my goal? Then I'm not going to do it. Whether that might be going out for a weekend and going partying, or so. This would probably be more like targeted towards like 20-year-olds in your early 20s. You want to spend a lot of money, you want to go party, you want to go, you're chasing girls, all that sort of stuff, which can actually be, it's good, but in its own sense is a distraction in itself, right? So making those
Yeah.
decisions to say like, hey, instead of spending this weekend, drinking with my friends or something, I'm actually going to focus on, either, putting in a new marketing plan and process, or, trying to reach out to some other people to try and, sell your product or your service to. So I now want to talk about, this is something that you asked, I believe you asked in your Grant Cardone podcast, and I thought was pretty interesting as well, was building an indestructible mindset to keep pushing forward. I know you touched on it a bit there with how you sort of look at things. Is this going to bring me closer to my goal? If it does, then you move forward. But what other things do you sort of use to sort of keep like, like to keep that sort of indestructible mindset? Like you're probably grounded with your morning routine, and you're working out is one thing to keep grounded in. It's like these simple habits that sort of push you forward to sort of get your day going. Like what's your sort of morning routine like, and how do you go about that?
Well, I mean, as far as morning routines, man, I wake up, like I said, and I have a gracious attitude. Thank you right away. Thank you, man. Thank you for my hands, my feet, my legs. I'm just thankful for the muscle that I have. Thankful that I can talk, see. I go through that. And then from there, man, it's like, okay, what do I got to do today to go towards my goal? But at the end of the day, I believe in God. I believe I was put in here by an all powerful God, omnipotent God, which means all powerful. And if that's the case, then that God, I can't sit there and think to myself that I have a limitation that was given to me. Like mentally and spiritually, I feel like unlimited potential. And because of the creator that created all of us, and when I get up in the morning and wake up, my duty is to go towards that potential and see how far I can take it. If I don't, one, I'm doing a disservice to the creator that put me here. But number two, I'm not showing anybody anything. And I think that when you're blessed and you have potential, which all of us are, some are more blessed with physical ability than other, but I'm talking spiritually and mentally. We're all blessed with this. Why wouldn't I want to prove that to show other people and inspire them, and also sprinkle it around to other people? So that's what keeps me going, and understanding that, one, the rocket fuel concept makes you unstoppable, and indestructible is the thought that we are not limited. It's only in our brain from a belief system that we've been programmed from experience, and the shallow people around us growing up that have kept us down and kept us caged up. And I'm not okay with that. And I'm going to make sure everybody else that hears my voice knows that we're not limited.
Yeah, no, 100%. And striving between like there's, and I hear that a lot from other people, is like you have unlimited potential, and like a lot of people maybe don't believe that they have that, right? Or it's like they're like, oh, I know, like this is the best I can do right now is to work this job or do something like that. But probably what you've figured out, and a lot of other people like entrepreneurs or business owners have figured out, is that like anybody can do this. Anybody and
Yeah.
everybody can do it. It's just you got to put your head down and try and figure it out, and it's just a problem, and problems can be solved. Um,
Well, all that's a big point right there. All problems have solutions. This is a big freedom thing. This is a big mind freeing thing. Once you understand that all problems can be solved, whether it's by you or someone else, you have a freedom feeling like nothing can stop me. And the other thing is, when you're talking about belief systems some people have, of course they're going to have those limiting belief systems, and they're stuck in jobs. And it's because like they have a job, and if they were to leave that job and go on to something else or start their own business, they'd have to give up that guarantee, that security. And, you got to be willing to give something up sometimes, man. No, a lot of times actually, if you want something. So, if you, I'm just trying to think of an example. Well, here's an example. So there's monkeys. I think they were spider monkeys. This is a story I heard that one of my buddies told me, who's one of my mentors. And the spider monkeys, they were having trouble catching them, and they were tearing stuff up. So this one guy came along and figured out that if you put a peanut in this little hole in this box or something, that the spider monkey would reach in and grab that peanut. And then he would try to pull it out like this with his fist, but the hole was too small for him to get this hand out, and he would not let go of the peanut. And with that being the case, that tells you something. Well, he wanted his hand out of the hole because that's how they caught him, right? He didn't want to get caught, but yet he didn't want to give up the peanut. So sometimes you got to let go of the peanut. And that's why, people are so stuck sometimes, and with limiting beliefs as well, is they're just not willing to give up the peanut.
Yeah. To be honest, like I love that. I've never heard that before, that analogy, and I think it's actually really good. I actually like that a lot.
Well, shout out to Richie Dolan for telling me that story. I think he told me about the peanut, or he might have called it a banana. I'm not sure, but it was something like that.
No, that's a great analogy. One thing that just popped into my head there was like your experience with I haven't had Grant Cardone on the show. Like, that's a future guest that I'd love to have on the show. But what was one of the best takeaways that you got from having that podcast and talking for 45 minutes to him about success and about like the mindset and everything that he does? Like, what was something that really stood out in that podcast that you took away from that? You were like, wow, that changed your thinking. Like, that actually changed your thinking a lot.
I think that the main thing was, I think that I noticed he was more negative, not negative, like more hypercritical of things, and pessimistic about things, and how he always thinks how hard things are going to be. And I think that, as much success as Grant has had, which is beyond, he's further along in his journey than I am. I'm not saying that I can't get to where he is, because I'm aiming past that. but I think that if he was to stop thinking things are so hard and start thinking that they're easier, he would have had an easier path. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and I always tell him, I want to shake him. Like, come on, dude. He's just on Undercover Billionaire, by the way. Just came out, and I'm watching the first episode, and I'm like, he's anticipating things being harder than they're going to be. And that's what the 10X rule is all about, by the way, which I believe in. But I think that, if you start thinking in your mind first that things are going to be easier, then you start talking that way and you start doing things that way. I guess it's a fine line, man. I think that's the biggest surprise I had, was like that he's so pessimistic about how hard things are going to be. I don't know. I think that one. And then the thing about being alone, like you brought up offline.
Yeah.
About like, what do you think about when you're alone, and the fact that he feels like he's always alone. And I think this is a thing for a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of self-improvement people, or people that are on the right track of where they want to go. And they're surrounded with people with mediocre mindsets and broken mindsets. And it's a lonely feeling, man. And you get a lot of shit from people. You get people that are questioning you. You get, those people that are closest to you just don't get you, and they don't understand your obsession all the time. And if you give into that, then you don't go after your dreams. And sometimes people, whether it's their friends, their spouse, their closest people, or the, people in their family or whatever, if they listen to them, then they go back to mediocrity. And for me, I got people that are starting to buy in now, but at first weren't bought in, that were close to me. And if I stopped, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
So as long as you're on the right thing, and you're going for what you're going for is the right thing, ethically, morally, and what have you, I think that you need to be stubborn. You need to be perversely unyielding to going towards that, because that's going to allow you to take all the negative and then store it in your tank and not your trunk, because your tank is where your fuel is. Your trunk is what weighs you down, and then you can blast off.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I sort of want to add 2 points to that. The first being is when you're talking about thinking things are hard or thinking things are how hard it's going to be, and if you change your mindset to actually it's easier, like everything you sort of do is actually a lot easier than you think it is. Like, if you think about everything you sort of do, I don't know why I do the exact same thing in my head. I'm like, okay, I got to work out today, but working out's easy. Well, all I have to do is walk out there, pick up weight, and then move it around. Or if I'm going to go for a run, it's literally just walking. I can go walk and then I can run, right? Or if with a business or writing an email, it's just sitting down typing words. There's much worse things. And I don't know if because like what I relate it to is like I had a brief moment in time in the military, and I look back at like the hard things that the like during training and stuff, like what they would get you to do, and I compared it to now, and I was like I found that easy. And I was like, why am I finding this hard? It's like writing this email or reaching out, it's like you have a fear of reaching out or something like that. And I was like, why am I finding this difficult? It's like, I'm in a house, I'm warm, I have food, like I'm seated down, I'm not on a run, and it's not raining or freezing. And I don't have like a weight on my back, and I'm not like camping.
Yeah.
Like I remember camping in a field during the winter, and it was just something that I related to from the military. And I was like, why am I finding this so hard? It's like, this is all really easy stuff to do. And when you start, like, that's what I'm trying to change my mindset right now, is into finding like, just being, instead of like, as soon as I hear, it's like, I have that feeling of like a little bit of anxiety or stress. Like when you think of something like, oh, I need to go do that. It's like, no, it's like, that is really easy to do. They just break down the process in your head of how you're going to do it. And it's super easy. Like anything you do around business is pretty easy to do. It's just, you have to sit down and do it.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is, the more time you add to everything, the more fear gets fueled, more anxiety gets fueled.
Yeah.
So like I lean into it. When I get anxious, I lean into it. When I get like, I'll give you like a story here. When I once a week I get up extra early just to keep myself off balance a little bit and uncomfortable. And every night, the night before, I'm like talking to myself, like, man, you don't need to do this. Why are you doing this? Like, you don't need to get up that early. Like, sleep in a little bit. Like, your trainer will understand. Nobody's going to know. Why are you doing this? And then I fight it anyway. I lean back into it. I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. Then the alarm goes off and I'm like, man, I don't feel like getting up right now. And then I'm like, nope, thank you. Thanks for waking up. Let's go. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. And I just keep pushing. Now, when I get to the gym, I'm there an hour earlier than I usually am. I get it done. And when I'm done, I'm like, wow, dude, I have all this time now. Like, this is the greatest thing in the world. I'm so happy I did it and I won. So I think that, anytime you're feeling that, that's a normal feeling. First of all, go into it and watch the results that you get and the feeling that you have after you accomplish it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I believe that a lot is leaning into it as soon as you feel it, because the longer you dwell on it, the bigger it gets and the more anxiety you build around it. If you just like a great thing that I've heard from a big real estate agent called Ryan Serhant is he's in New York. Is that he schedules his day that he takes on what he perceives the hardest things to be. He takes it right off at the front of the day, right? That's the first thing he does. That's the first thing he executes on. So he doesn't have to like build up, like stress and anxiety. And then near the end of the day, when you're a little bit more like mentally tired, that you just like, oh, you know what? I don't feel like doing it today. I want to push it to tomorrow. He just wakes up and he's like, no, I'm getting it done. I'm going to execute it. The hardest thing, no matter what it is, that's giving me the most anxiety. We're going to go out there and we're just going to go crush it. Which I think is a great piece of advice. And the second thing, I can't remember the second thing that I wanted to add to what you were talking about. Anyway, it'll probably come back to me. But moving forward now, I want to talk about like looking back at like, if you were 18 or 20 or something like that, and you had zero debt, zero money, what would you do?
Zero debt or zero money.
Yeah.
Well, in that case there, you have a lot less to lose. So I would do everything. First of all, I would get a vision very clear of what I wanted and to the granular detail of who I wanted to do it with, what color car I wanted to drive, what city I wanted to live in, the type of house, like what kind of business I wanted, who I wanted to run that business with. Like I would get really clear and write it all down. And then every day I would write it down again and keep living it. And every decision from there that I would make, I would be taking action towards that. Thinking every thought that I have would make sure that it's going towards that. And that would be so important to me. And so really what it comes down to is believing the vision that you set for yourself and then taking enough action to make progress towards it every single day. That's the secret. I mean, there's no bells and whistles.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. It's the like that's the thing that I've been figuring out like through my journey of business and entrepreneurship and stuff is like I sit down and I execute and I do something and it takes me 30 minutes and I've been dreading that for 3 hours. And it's like I
Yeah.
finish it and I'm just like, why didn't I just do this 3 hours ago? And then not save myself from all that anxiety and stress of feeling like, oh, I have to get this done. Which I sort of get mad at myself. Well, I get mad at my sort of like monkey brain sometimes, which is like, you dread something.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, you dread something, and then it's like so simple, and you do it, and you're like, wow, that was easy, and then you're happy and you're done, and you can move on with your day. So a second question I have is still around the same question, but if you have like debt, like let's say you have school debt, and you're coming out of school and you have school debt, and you don't have much money, right? Maybe you're working like a
Right.
part-time or a full-time job, minimum wage. What would you do to sort of put yourself push yourself uh, forward? Sorry, blah. Would you focus on getting rid of the debt first, or would you focus on trying to build like a business first?
No, 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 no. I would pay that minimum payment possible, even deferred if I had to. Make them wait.
Hmm.
Take care of you first. So invest in myself, invest in my business, and then take care of it, like investing in investments. Make them wait. The rates are generally low, and stop thinking about you need to pay it off. Who cares?
Hmm.
But so definitely all priority would be me, my business, and then from there investments.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. And then another question I have is like, let's say you've 20 from your experience in business in the business world. I'm not too sure if you have a lot of experience in investing or if it's something you're really passionate about. But let's say you have $20,000 or 100. Let's say you have one question is going to be $20,000 and the next question is going to be $100,000. What would you focus with that money? Would you put it into yourself or would you put it into some type of investment?
I would put it into myself. Right now, I'm still investing in myself. I have investments as well, but I don't think that you should ever stop investing in yourself. So if you're asking that question for someone that's what they have right now, I mean, I would spend it on programs of someone that put out that I want to be like, or that's on a journey that I want to go to. So, their programs, their books, their masterminds, their events, I would invest in that because once you do that and you get that connection, first of all, the content and the information and knowledge, but then also the association or being around those people. And if you happen to build a relationship with someone like that because of that, nobody can take that away from you. It's into you. And as long as you have the vision and the courage to do the action I was telling you about and the belief, you're unstoppable, man.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, I believe that as well is that you should never like stop learning. And that's like I recently before we jumped on this podcast, I had another guy on the podcast called Bruce Firestone, who's very well known in Ottawa. He was like the founder of the Ottawa Senators, an NHL team in the Ottawa area. And he was saying, he says like the only time you start to be old is when you stop learning and when you stop and you think you figured everything out, right? And
Yeah.
he says, I've met people that are in their 30s that are old, and I've met people that are in their 80s that are young. And he says, as soon as you stop deciding that you want to continue learning, is when you sort of become old.
Yep, 100%, man. You gotta be willing to understand that there's always help available to make you better.
Yeah.
Again, our potential is limitless. If it's
Yeah.
limitless, that means that you can't stop learning. You can't stop going towards it. If you do, that is when you die. Period.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, 100%. And that's another thing he was talking about too, is like he's like 70 years old. And this guy's still like doing like he's done a lot of crazy stuff. And he's like 70 years old. And I was like, what, like, why do you keep going? I was like, what, like, shouldn't like you're like the majority of people are retired. And he says it's something that his father told me. He says you should never stop working or retirement. He says, why do you want to sit down? He says, as soon as you sit down and just watch TV and you're in retirement, he says, you're pretty much dead already. So he
Yeah.
said that's what keeps him going and going and going and going and going and going.
Yep.
Um,
I agree.
Awesome. Awesome. So now I want to jump to like, you have your own podcast. You're very active on social media. When did this sort of, when did this sort of happen? When did you start saying like, I want to get active on social media, start putting out a podcast, and the reasons why? Because you're like I'm young, but you're older than me. You're in a demographic that a lot of people are maybe like, oh, I'm too old to do that or something like that, or that might be a conception that they're putting out there, like a misconception that they're like, oh, I'm too old to run a podcast or do this, but you're crushing it in the podcast and you're crushing it on social media and all this different stuff. When did you decide to do that and why?
Yeah, thank you, by the way. No, about probably 2 years ago. It's only been about 2 years ago. I committed to it. I decided that I was telling my team in the mortgage industry that we got to get known. You got to get out there. Got to do this. Got to do that. And I wasn't doing enough of it myself. And so I just had enough, and I made a commitment that I was going to make sure that I got known globally. And I told some people. There's a guy named Howard that works with us at the mortgage company. And I told him, I said, I'm going to be a thought leader in this industry and everybody's going to know who I am because I'm going to take this rocket fuel concept to him. And that was 2 years ago. And I told him that. And I don't know if he believed me or not, but now here we are. So you commit. I didn't know how I was going to do it, except that I was just going to commit and believe that I could do it. And then every day, again, I take the actions towards that goal. Is this helping me get there? Yes or no? If it's not, I'm not doing it. And I'm very committed to that. And, it's not perfect. I mean, every day, you go through some days you mess up and you look at the end of the day. By the way, I think you should correct yourself every single day. Take a look at the end of the day of what your day was like and see if it was really tied to going towards your goal. And if it wasn't, you need to correct it tomorrow and get back on track. Because if you wait to the end of the week or the end of the month, that's way too late.
Yeah.
And so I'm just very clear, intentional, and disciplined, man.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. And man, it pays off. And you know what? The other thing is it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't, you don't even know when it happens. It's just kind of like you get this awareness all of a sudden, like, damn, look how far I came. Holy cow. Like this is crazy. You don't even recognize yourself after 6 months or a year. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of times people are really urgent with results. And I think that you need to be patient with the results, but urgent with your actions.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. And two things. One was like the course correction. It's like literally it ties into your rocket fuel, your rocket fuel. Like if you're a rocket, you always want to be making, these tiny course corrections after like every single day, right? Otherwise you can like, if you're not making these course corrections, I don't know why, but this is giving me a little bit of like deja vu of like having this conversation or seeing this type of conversation of like, if you're not doing course corrections and it's like, it might've been a video, but it was talking about like, if you're not doing course corrections daily, it's like, it can add up. If you're not doing course corrections and then you look at how far, like you can see how far you've actually gone off target. If you're not correcting what you're doing, right? If you're just going
one degree could mean miles and miles and miles of difference. I think Dave Meltzer told me that one time. I think it might have been him. He said that, I don't know, maybe it wasn't him, but if you just change 1 degree, half a degree, mm-hmm. you could end up in a whole different world.
Yeah. So, yeah. And that's, and that, and I believe in that a lot. Cause it's like, everybody has like an original goal or like what their goal is, like what they want. Right. And I believe everybody wants like financial freedom. Everyone wants to be happy and stuff. But sometimes through your work or the businesses you start, you can actually figure out that I was like, actually, this is taking me farther away than what I actually wanted to go.
Yeah.
And having those course corrections are crucial. So now jumping to, you're in the mortgage industry. You probably have a lot of experience in the sales and marketing sort of space as well. How do you approach selling a product and how do you approach selling a service?
To me, I don't see a difference. I mean, when you get down to your features and benefits, that's when I would see the difference. But I think it always starts out with a greeting. That's if once you get the people in, but like prospecting is the first thing I would look at, prospecting and marketing. And you're going to people. You find people, like who is the people that have the money for my product? Who has the need for my product? So I don't think there's much of a difference between service and product, except when you get into the features and benefits part. So everything remains the same. Find people that have the money to buy your product. Okay. Once you do that, okay, how can I get in front of them? Phone call, email, text, Facebook, social media, television. You're looking at all the different marketing and advertising platforms that you can use to get in front of the people that have the money for your product. Then once you get them, and then you're going over features and benefits and all that when you're doing a demonstration of it or a commercial or something. That's the difference where the service and product would come in. But other than that, it's all the same, man. And then you're closing the deal.
Awesome. and that's what everybody wants to be doing, is closing those deals. So now moving to pretty much marketing. Everybody's been talking to, like you touched on a bit there. Everybody's talking about social media marketing, all that sort of stuff. What are some traditional marketing methods that are still cost effective and still like people are maybe like, aren't really using because they're like, oh, that's out of date or something of that nature, that are still like pretty useful and are cost effective?
Phone calls. Bottom line, phone calls. Calling people up on their cell phone with the 7-digit, 10-digit number, I should say, and actually dialing a number and calling people. And the thing is that people aren't doing it nowadays, and except the robo dials, but people aren't doing it personally. And so it makes it that much more appealing to do because less people are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one thing. I think handwritten cards to people that are like in your database and in your past customer list. Like, to me, one of the things that every business should do is everybody that's in their past customer database, they should be calling them a consistent basis. Every single day, a certain number of calls should be made to past customers. Second money is always the easiest money to get from people, and it's the least expensive money to get from people. So, I think that marketing your current database of past customers is where most people miss out. They're always looking for the new customer. Where can I get the new customer? Where can I find new people? Where can I find new money? And they miss out on that second money.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big one. And I guess I would say the other one would be messaging on social media, like how we got in touch with.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the thing about phone call, and I'm actually happy you brought that up. In the real estate and mortgage industry, I see those types of people like that are in that space do it the best because everybody I sort of talk to is like they're like, because that business is such relationship focused that they're literally like, I was talking to one guy who's very successful in the Ottawa market, doing over like $1 million a year in the Ottawa market, and he was telling me how he lays out his days because I was really interested about it, and pretty much every single day he's pretty much how he sets it up. He's like calling previous clients every single day, right? So he's not like, because he has a huge database now, but he's calling, like, he still takes the time to personally have a 5 to 10 minute phone call with like 5 to 6 people of his previous customers, right? And then he just like checks in how they're doing, how do they like their new place, how do they like their house, like how's the house, like how are they, like, if they need a contractor, if they need a plumber, if they need an electrician. He has like all those, like that's his sort of like,
Yeah.
he has his book of like all those people. And then if something comes up and saying, oh, actually, you know what, my daughter and my son is looking to get their first place, and there you go.
Yes.
And I think real estate agents and mortgage brokers do it the best, and I see that a lot from them, and I don't really see it that much from other businesses. I see a lot of like maybe other businesses that maybe will send you an email, but who really reads emails, right? Or like in the
Yeah.
service
Yeah. I
industry.
mean, like there's a automobile, not sales, but like mechanic and body shop and detailing shop that I work with right now. And, you know, they should be calling their past customers and saying, how are things going? I look forward to servicing you this year. Thank you so much for your business in the past. By the way, do you know anybody else that could use our services? That thing, when people get a transaction one time, a lot of times the salespeople look at that commission like that customer's worth this commission. That customer is not worth that commission. They're worth that commission plus any other one they'll do with you. Plus, do those people know people? Of course they do. How many people do they know? Okay. Then you get them referring people to you. And then the people that they refer you to, they know people. And then it multiplies. That's the thing that people don't think about. They think about a one-on-one transaction and that's it. And they don't think about the actual multiplication of the people that they know, and asking them for business later on is way missed opportunity.
Yeah, no, 100%, and I agree with that a lot. And you don't see it in like other spaces. Like, I don't know if haven't really had these conversations with other people. I think I have, but I like it's like I haven't really seen it that much where you're calling previous clients. Like maybe they'll send like an email or something like that, but it's not like the physical
Got a call.
like contact phone call that like
Yeah.
has a huge difference
And
on your customers.
even if you're too busy to do it yourself, then you need to get somebody to do it. And that somebody could say, hey, I'm calling from Mike C-Roc's office. He wanted me to call you and thank you. And unfortunately, he's tied up right now, but he wanted to make sure that we got a call to you and let you know we appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
And, it sounds powerful that way. That's better than not at all, So
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Awesome. So I know we're coming to the end here. Are you still good for time till like for the next 15 minutes? Or
Yeah. I'm good.
Okay. All right, awesome, awesome. So I just got a couple more questions. One being, I know we touched on we touched on it a bit, was like, your rocket fuel formula, and just sitting down and executing. What are those things that come to mind for your key, like for your key to success? That like, and anything else that you'd mention to like somebody that's maybe in high school or in their first year university or getting out of university in this like uncertain time right now. Like that's what I'm seeing. Like a lot of university students are getting out because a lot of them are my friends, and it's difficult to get a job right now. It's difficult to get a high paying job right now unless you're in like the top. In the top and like at the top of the class or whatever, or you're really, really good, or if you have like inside connections, like, your family or something like that, or friends, or like, that's what I'm seeing a lot of people is like family and friends is a big one. But yeah, like what would your advice be to those people to sort of get out and get like some good paying jobs or to start a business?
Well, first of all, stop worrying about the opposite sex. Stop chasing fellas. Stop chasing girls. Girls, stop chasing fellas. Like, just focus on taking care of yourself. Get yourself straight first. Get your money right first. First of all, that's the first thing I would say, because at the end of the day, you're chasing. If I look at this, I'm just speaking from experience. Like, if you're chasing women and you're not focused on what you need to do to take care of yourself, then at the end of the day, you're delaying your success and your progress. So I say, take care of yourself, figure out what you want to do, what kind of life you want to have, go towards that first. And then once you get set, there's going to be women knocking down your door. Same thing with the ladies. There's going to be quality men, not just one night stands. I'm talking about for a spouse that'll be knocking down your door. That's one thing. The other thing is, you got to figure out what you want. Like, I can't tell people what to do until they figure out what they want. So I keep going back to the same thing: clear vision of what you want, believe it can happen with no limitations, and then take a lot of action. And so if you want to work for someone, figure out where you want to work, and then figure out what you got to do to work there, and be obsessed about it, and don't give up. And just, you can't tell me that, like, if I'm at my business right now and I had a full plate of employees, right? But somebody was just being obsessive. They want to work here. They want to prove it to me. And they said, listen, at the end of the day, the last resort, I'll work for free for you just to show you what I'm capable of. If somebody did that for me, I'll find a place for them.
Yeah.
But Max, most people will try one or two times and say, "Oh, it's tough. It's hard." And then they're going to be justifying in their mind every reason to validate that it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so stop thinking it's hard. Stop thinking it's scarce, and just be obsessive about it. Find out what you want to go after it with perversely unyielding, like I said before.
Yeah. No, 100%. And one thing that I sort of did that perspective change that sort of relates to this to a bit with getting people on my podcast. When I was first starting out, I was nervous, and like I reached out, and then I was like, oh, they said no, and I was just like, okay, well, I'm like, they're not going to come on my podcast. But then one day I just switched it to like, I was like, no, screw this. I was like, they're coming on my podcast, and I was like, they're coming on at like, it might not be this week, it might not be next week, but they're coming on this podcast because I want to talk to them at some point. And when you change your mindset into like, it's a game now, and you don't care if you get rejected or you lose, and you're just like, you keep pushing forward, and you say like, you know what, I'm going to work at this guy's place because I think he has so much value and I can learn so much from him. And I don't care, if he doesn't hire me today, if he doesn't hire me tomorrow, it's like, I will work there at some point. And if you have that mindset and you just keep pushing, like a crazy thing that I heard from another thing was from Ryan Serhant when he was trying to get a developer, right? Major developer. I think this was like early on in his career. And he was having a lot of trouble getting this developer. Like he's like sent like 40 emails, 50 emails, whatever, right? Phone calls, nothing's happening, right? And he's like, no, I'm going to get this person. So what he did, craziest thing, he literally sent, first, I think he sent him a tree, like a plant. He sent him a plant with like, and he's like, this is for like, I don't know, he had some like smart remark on it about like relationships and building relationships. And the next thing he sent him, like the next week, he sent him a bookshelf. And then literally every single day he was like, he told him like on the sticky note, he's like, I'm going to fill this bookshelf up with books for the reasons why you should hire me to sell your development projects. And every single day he sent him a book. Like every single day he mailed him a book, right? And then by like, like the 20th or 30th day, the guy was like finally like messaged him, and he was like, fine. He's like, you win. Like let's set up a phone call. And I was like, this is obviously like, that's the mindset you have to have if you want to like win at something. Like that's
man. It's like, again, what does it go back to? You have your vision, you believe it's going to happen, and then you take enough action to get there. Commitment is first, then creativity follows. Grant says this all the time. You get real creative when you're committed. And committed is not halfway committed. It's not saying you want to do something. It's like, I'm burning the ships. I'm making this happen no matter what. There's no turning back. There's a wall back here. I have nowhere to go. I got to get it done. And that's the commitment. And then when you do that, dude, you get creative. It actually starts to become easy.
Yeah, no, 100%. So a question that you actually asked on Grant Cardone's show to Grant was, what's sort of your thought process when you're alone, when there's nobody around? And I thought it was really interesting how Grant responded to that. And I thought it was such a great question that I'm going to steal it from you and use it on yourself, But yeah, like, what's your thought process like when you're by yourself and you're alone? Like you were saying, like when you're in the shower, when you're like waking up this early, when you're in the car driving, like what are you thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, he answered the question perfectly, because at the end of the day, I'm the decision maker in most things, and that leaves me by myself. And so I agreed with him when he said that, but I talk to myself a lot. And so what are you made of podcast is because that's a thing I say to myself a lot when I'm going through tough times, or I don't feel like doing something, or even if I'm doing great and I want to take it to the next level. I'm like, what are you made of? Let's go. What are you doing? Like, you're built for this. Like, you're the only one that can get this job done. I don't know anybody else that can do this better than you. Like, I'll talk to myself like that. So the other thing is, on my podcast and when I'm on podcasts, I talk to other people like I talk to myself. So if you want an idea of what I'm like by myself and what I'm talking about inside my head, or even out loud sometimes, you just, all you got to do is tune into the podcast or look at my Instagram, because that's pretty much what it's like to live inside of my head.
Yeah, no, and the funny thing is, like, I do the exact same things when I have a problem, or I feel like, I have a setback or something. It's like having a conversation with yourself. It sounds crazy, but everybody does it. Everybody has conversations with themselves, and actually how you can have these conversations, and how you can like take a situation that's maybe sucks and actually flip it around and get like hyped for it and get motivated by talking to yourself, maybe even out loud, and like actually like hyping yourself up to like say like, what, I can do this, like before a meeting, let's say a big meeting, or before getting a client or whatever it is, right? Having those conversations, I think, are crucial to your success. Is just actually, because it also like helps you digest information as well when you're having those conversations, right? It also, like, you might have a new thought and it might open your brain to, like a new way of looking at something, or a new idea that can actually help you in your business process.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, that's what I mean, I'm always talking to myself like, I'm built for this. I got this. I'm an animal. I mean, it's just crazy. If I have stuff to do, I got to knock this out. Let's go. I'm always talking. And so, a lot of people say, man, you're hard on us. You're hard on us. Or gosh, man, dude, I'm hard on myself too. Like, this is what I live with. So get used to it. So,
yeah, no, and it makes sense, right? It's like you like if you're trying to push yourself, it's like, working out or anything like that. You gotta like, even mentally, you gotta push yourself. You gotta be in it, and you gotta like push yourself to do it. And whatever you need to do to sort of get you there is like what you gotta do, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I know we're coming to the end here. So is there anything else before we actually leave this podcast? Is there anything else you want to add at all, or anything that's like an answer that you wanted to talk about, or anything in general?
Yeah, I mean, basically the main thing is the Rocket Fuel book. Grant Cardone wrote the forward for the book, but the book's called Rocket Fuel, and the subtitle is Convert Setbacks, Become Unstoppable. And if that's what you want to do, and you're tired of being stuck and tired of being slowed down, tired of being stopped, get this book. It'll change your life. It'll change your financial situation. It'll change your relationships. Everything will change for you when you read this book and implement what I talk about. That book's available at MikeCroc.com. That's Mike, C-R-O-C, no K, MikeCroc.com/book. Go get that book and share it with your friends and family and coworkers, man, because this book's going to change lives. It's going to be a global phenomenon once people get into it and see what it does, and it'll have an impact on the world.
Yeah, 100%. And so I recommend guys go check out his book. Also go check out his podcast, What Are You Made Of? If you're on YouTube right now, you can probably see the branding behind him right now, which looks absolutely amazing. I love it. So where else can, people kind of like, where can people find you on LinkedIn, website, anything for mortgages, all that sort of good stuff? Any other businesses that you have?
Yeah, the best place to find me on LinkedIn or Instagram, either one. I like, people message me all the time, man. I sit and answer for hours messages because I don't look at it as a waste of time answering DMs, man. It's a connection. It's an opportunity to meet some great people. And please send me a DM, in any of those places, and I'll be happy to talk to you and see if there's anything I can do to help you.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you a lot, Mike, for coming on the podcast. It's been absolutely amazing
Thanks,
talking
man.
with you.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you, man.